The Trinidad and Tobago government hints at legal action against a former security agency employee who claimed he was ordered to fire all East Indian employees. Our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Thursday, August 29th. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Dawn Paris. Good evening. A former director of intelligence at Trinidad and Tobago's Strategic Services Agency, the SSA, could find himself facing legal action initiated by the government. National Security Minister Stuart Young on Thursday suggested that Carlton Denny may be in that position over his claims that he'd been instructed by senior government ministers, including Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley, to dismiss all employees of Indian descent from the security agency. Young told reporters at the post-cabinet media briefing that government had originally planned to ignore Denny's allegations, but he said that because of Denny's continued behavior, the government was examining whether any of his actions could be challenged legally.
I have asked the legal officers to look at both his contract, which contains his contract at the time at the SSA, which contains confidentiality and secrecy provisions, but also a written oath of secrecy, and to have the legal analysis performed, working with the Office of the Attorney General, to see if there was any breach of that and any legal action that can be taken. And again, I say that this is being done not because it is Mr. Denny. It has nothing to do with the individual, but it is duty of the government and as the Minister of National Security for us to continue to protect organizations and our intelligence organization. Because if officers believe that they can serve and we are giving you exposure to classified secret information, and then you are upset or you have a disagreement with your employer and you can go out there now and expose state secrets, it cannot be tolerated. And we will take action against Mr. Denny if he has breached those provisions to protect the institution.
Well, Prime Minister Rowley earlier this week strongly denied Denny's claim, which was made at a meeting of the Opposition United National Congress, UNC, on Monday night. He described it as an outright lie and that was designed to sow the seed of racial hatred and tension in the Twin Island Republic. He also accused the UNC leader, former Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar, of fomenting racial tension in the country in a bid to return to office. While Denny has now backpedaled on his claim, speaking at a news conference, he sought to clarify his statement, saying that it was all political games.
I did not say that the PNM told me to fire the East Indians. I did not say that the Minister of National Security told me to fire the East Indians. I said that I served under 4 different heads of National Security Council. The director of the SSA is the person who attends the National Security Council meeting. So for the PM and other ministers to go harping on these minor issues, to create spins and redirect, refocus all of the main issues, just show the games that politics play to offset the minds of people in the public. I am not here for that. I said that Matthew Andrews, the former illegal interim director of the SSA, asked me to assist him in firing the East Indians.
Staying in Trinidad and Tobago, Watson Duke, president of the Public Service Association, PSA, is to be charged with sedition. The police service has made no announcement regarding the charge against Duke, who has been in custody since Monday, assisting with investigations into statements he allegedly made several months ago. But the National Security Minister said at that news conference that he had been informed that clearance had been given by the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions to lay one charge of sedition against the union leader. The trade unions have charged that the arrest of Duke is politically motivated, as the National Trade Union Center, NATUC, which Duke heads, says it will be moving to the High Court to contest the constitutionality of the Sedition Act.
The Sedition Act has been applied. Sedition has been something in existence from time immemorial. That is an act that existed before we had a written constitution, so it will be caught by the saving laws provision. The courts will deal with that. At this stage, in my view, it is on the books, it exists. If the police service, and I want to make this point very, very clear, it is the police service utilizing it, I'm seeing certain political opponents and others suggest it is the government behind recent sedition charges. Again, as the Minister of National Security, I can say here categorically, at no point in time were any instructions given, or did I interfere with any police investigation. I am told, as I was just told before coming in here, for example, that the Director of Public Prosecutions has given instructions or given the clearance for Mr. Duke to be charged with 1 count of sedition.
Young was further pressed about whether the government would review the legislation, which NATUC General Secretary Michael Anisette said is colonial, used to instill fear, and has no place in modern times.
At this stage, the government is not looking at the Sedition Act and any reform of it, repeal of it, or anything like that. It remains on the books like many other laws, and I am happy to see a police service that are enforcing the laws of Trinidad and Tobago.
In other news, the Virgin Islands experienced heavy flooding during the passage of Hurricane Dorian on Wednesday, but the damage has not been recorded as significant. Premier of the British Virgin Islands, Andrew Foy, reported there were no lives lost or serious injuries, major property damage, or crimes or problems in relation to businesses being compromised. But he said there was some major flooding on the outskirts of Road Town, with some damage to buildings reported and debris on some roads in those areas. A curfew that had been imposed from 2 p.m. on a Wednesday expired on Thursday morning at 6, and most government offices opened by 10. But the Central Administration Complex remained closed after an initial assessment by authorities. No word was given on exactly how Dorian had impacted the facility, but the complex had been in line for repairs prior to the hurricane's passage. The U.S. Virgin Islands was also impacted by Dorian's heavy rains, which caused flooding in parts of the territory. A curfew was lifted for residents of the St. Thomas St. John district at 8 a.m. on Thursday after road crews had cleared debris. Dorian is still a Category 1 hurricane with winds near 85 miles per hour, but it's forecast to strengthen during the next few days and become a major hurricane on Friday and remain an extremely dangerous one through the weekend. At 5 p.m., it was located about 330 miles east of the southeastern Bahamas and was moving in a northwesterly direction at 13 miles per hour. On that track, Dorian is expected to move over the Atlantic well east of the southeastern and central Bahamas on Thursday night and Friday, approach the northwestern Bahamas Saturday, and move near or over portions of the northwest Bahamas on Sunday. While no watches or warnings are in effect, interests in the northwestern and central Bahamas have been advised to monitor Hurricane Dorian's progress, as watches may be required on Friday. St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Dominica were the only 2 CARICOM countries who voted on a Wednesday against an Organization of American States resolution on the human rights situation in Venezuela. The resolution, which was eventually approved by the OAS Permanent Council, condemns the grave and systematic violations of human rights in Venezuela, including the use of torture, illegal and arbitrary detentions, extrajudicial executions, forced disappearances, and the denial of most basic rights and necessities, especially those related to health, food, and education. It also demands an independent, exhaustive, and credible investigation that makes it possible to bring the perpetrators and masterminds of the human rights violations to justice. The resolution also calls for immediate and unhindered access for the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights to Venezuela. 5 CARICOM member states voted among 21 countries in favor of the resolution. There were the Bahamas, Guyana, Haiti, Jamaica, and St. Lucia. Barbados, Belize, St. Kitts and Nevis, Suriname, and Trinidad and Tobago abstained from the vote, while Antigua and Barbuda and Grenada were absent. Coming up in Caribbean Newsline, the opposition in Guyana concerned about how the election body is compiling a voters list ahead of the polls. We'll be right back.
When you think of what we went through with Hurricane Irma, you had to be able to recognize what are the things we need to do to cope with the aftermath. The psychological trauma, to me, is probably the most telling on a lot of people.
Preparedness is the key. So when people are prepared, when people have what their resources in terms of how they can cope with the disaster, they're better able to be able to return to their normal life. They're better able to make decisions that are informed for themselves and for their family and then for their community. Be ready, look, listen, and link.
Tell me a bit first, just to establish this. When did you first go to the Yemen, and in what circumstances and why?
I happened to go to Yemen to teach English in 2005, about 11 years ago. And that was at a time when a lot of Western students were going to the country, particularly to learn Arabic.
So we have to think a moment and allow ourselves to come back to normalcy or come back to our senses, because oftentimes, in this natural content of the flesh, we're drawn to do things of the flesh that are not God's way.
Like say for instance, if someone is taken away from us before their time, and you're sitting there, you're praying and praying, and when God don't answer you and save that person's life.
Our guests today who are joining us to talk about this new phenomenon. It is a phenomenon. Yeah. It's all over the world. It's not just in Las Vegas where we are today. So Matt Terrell, welcome to the show. You're the studio manager at Orange Theory. And Scott Kramer, you're the fitness coach. How did you guys learn about Orange Theory?
I learned about Orange Theory about 5.5 years ago, but one of my personal trainers was asking me to help him to help people in pre-sales.
The two major political parties in Guyana are reacting to the Elections Commission's decision to end house-to-house registration almost 2 months ahead of schedule. A Partnership for National Unity, the APNU, says it will respect the decision, but the opposition People's Progressive Party, Civic, has some concerns. We get more in this HGP News report.
The decision of the chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission, GCOM, Justice Claudette Singh, to put an end to the house-to-house registration on Saturday, the Partnership for National Unity, APNU, has noted that its position on the conclusion of the house-to-house registration is that it will abide by the laws and fully supports GCOM and this decision. The grouping of parties which make up APNU has made it clear that they are ready for the elections. The house-to-house registration should have run until October 20, but that will no longer take place. According to GCOM, based on the ruling of the Chief Justice on August 14, 2019, that house-to-house registration is not unlawful and is constitutional, the data garnered from the registration exercise must be merged with the existing National Register of Registrants database, NRRDB. The Commission will move to ensure all arrangements for the publication of a credible preliminary list of electors, PLE, before commencement of an extensive claims and objections, C&O, exercise. On the other hand, the opposition People's Progressive Party, Civic, is urging GCOM to move decisively by immediately launching a claims and objectives exercise, which will allow those who are not on the National Register of Registrants and are eligible to be properly registered. The parties of the view that the decision made by GCOM on Tuesday is the only logical one that could have been made. However, for the PPP, the planned merger of data from the house-to-house registration will not improve the quality or credibility of the database. Rather, it will further contaminate the National Register of Registrants and cause further delays in the holding of elections.
Staying in Guyana, the country's first oil production vessel, the Lisa Destiny, has arrived in the country much earlier than anticipated. Newsroom's Bibi Katoon reports.
The Lisa Destiny, Guyana's first oil production vessel, has arrived in the Stabroek Block offshore Guyana after traveling 42 days from the Keppel shipyard in Singapore. ExxonMobil's country manager Rod Henson said this is a historic moment for Guyana.
So the team is extremely excited about the Lisa Destiny has finally arrived in Guyana, this world-class vessel that all of Guyana can be proud of. Culmination of over 2 years of work, millions of man-hours of effort from people around the globe. Very, very proud of the team to accomplish this feat, this hit this next milestone safely and doing it in a way that is protective of the environment.
ExxonMobil Guyana, in a statement, said the vessel will be connected to the spread mooring before hookup and installation begins in preparation for production, storage, and offloading of Guyana's oil. Director at the Department of Energy, Dr. Mark Bino, welcomed the announcement, noting that the Liza Destiny's arrival should engender a new spirit of nationalism, pride, and expectation.
The arrival of the Liza Destiny will definitely become a big occasion for Guyana, because now it's no more just talking about forest oil. Forest oil will now be on the horizon. It means that even for us, if we were running on a 24-hour clock, we're now having to run, if you want to call it, a 24-hour multiplied by some fraction. The reality is everything has been advanced, because the Liza Destiny was expected to arrive in the third week of September. So its arrival, which is imminent, would mean that we have moved that timetable forward.
The Liza Destiny floating production and storage offloading vessel is a significant component of the Liza Phase 1 development, which involves 4 undersea drill centers and 17 production wells. It has a production capacity of up to 120,000 barrels of oil per day and an overall storage volume of 1.6 million barrels. During normal operations, there will be at least 80 persons living and working on board the vessel, the U.S. oil major said. ExxonMobil is set to begin oil production shortly.
Ahead in Newsline Sport, a task force set up to improve football in Trinidad and Tobago is disbanded. The details after the break. Stay with us.
Basically where we discuss issues relating to men and women and the way that they see things differently. I definitely will be biased. I will be me. You will be hearing it just how it is. I will not be frank as everybody wants to be frank.
No, lad. I don't know how personally.
I was like, oh damn.
No. Just a general disposition.
I think we need to put a police escort on our street for the rest of the week.
And a lawyer. Wait, no. Pitbull.
Safe to say them sent me off to kill my own lion. But just school, man, that's why you failed graduation. When we did a school and we did a park, you didn't say that you can freestyle, but you done go harder in a war. Just school then, because you feel so you can freestyle at the
Yeah. Yo, never think me would have to kill me bigger brother. Mess up me face and when me booking that undercover. You heard me loud and clear, and not just me gonna stutter. Rat-a-tat-a, poopa, Jesus, move me ball of murder.
Topping our sports this Thursday, the Trinidad and Tobago Football Association has disbanded a task force that was set up to improve the sport in the country. In this TTT Sport report, football boss David John Williams says the task force failed to carry out the Federation's mandate to take the game forward.
Speaking at today's press conference, President of the TTFA, David John Williams, announced the suspension of the commission that had proposed this formation of a so-called T-League for professional football in Trinidad and Tobago.
There was a parameter that was set out for the commission to deal with, and the board today felt that the commission did not fulfill its full responsibility insofar as the task that it was set out to do, and the board voted unanimously to disband the commission.
He earlier reminded those gathered that the TT Pro League and the Super League are not members of the TTFA, only the clubs that play in those respective leagues. Before announcing the setting up of a new commission that is to report back to the TTFA with a plan to extend the Ascension League or have professional football back and running by the 4th of October or possibly before or even after the proposed date.
the board also voted unanimously to form a committee of 5, which comprised of Mr. Selby Brown, Ms. Julia Batiste, Mr. Anthony Moore, Ms. Susan Warwick, and Mr. Colin Partap, to form a committee to investigate the structures and a pathway forward for Trinidad and Tobago football with immediate effect.
He adds, the board believes that having professional football is of utmost importance in Trinidad and Tobago.
Let me also say that is the view of the members of the board that it's important that professional football remains, and it's important that the TTFA take the necessary steps to ensure the survival, one, of the professional football, and 2, that it helps the national team in its quest, particularly that World Cup qualifying is right around the corner.
To cricket now, the Caribbean Premier League has signed an agreement with the Guyana government for matches to be played at Providence. Social Cohesion Minister Dr. George Norton and Team Operations Manager of the Guyana Amazon Warriors, Omar Khan, were on hand on Thursday for the signing. The Amazon Warriors will play 5 home matches at the National Stadium. They will also host the eliminator and qualifier of the CPL. Dr. Norton was excited to have his country host another edition of the tournament.
It is in the air. We know what cricket is to the Guyanese society, and we certainly are glad to be a part of this tournament, this annual tournament, where persons from all walks of life, from the geographical area, different geographical areas, the different communities, will all come out to enjoy the game of cricket in what the Director of Sports referred to as a world-class stadium with very, very favorable conditions.
Meanwhile, CPL's operations manager Khan announced a new role for young batsman Shimron Hetmeyer in this year's tournament.
We are hoping this year that we could get over that hurdle. There's no doubt, I mean, as I said, we are the most consistent team in the CPL. We have reached 4 finals, we have reached 2 semi-finals in the 6th tournament. You know, so we are getting there. And that's why I think this year we stress more importantly that we give the young players, Hetmeyer, we have Nicholas Puran with us this year, the young players the opportunity to take leadership roles. So part of our system and structure this year will be giving responsibility to these young players. For example, Shimron Hetmeyer will be appointed the director of batting. Let him take responsibility in the squad. We're going to set up the squad as a business unit. He is a batsman, isn't he? That's his specialty. Correct, right? So we're going to give responsibility to the players to take charge and make them more responsible so they can be more leaders. And that's what we're hoping will take us over the line.
The CPL runs from September 4th to October 12th. Bahamian Shawnee Miller-Weibo created an upset in the 200 meters final at the Zurich Diamond League on Thursday. The 400-meter Olympic gold medalist crossed the finish line in a new world-leading time of 21.74 seconds, beating crowd favorite Jamaican Elaine Thompson, who finished third in 22.44 seconds. Asher Smith of the United Kingdom finished second in a time of 22.08 seconds.
Asher Smith quickly away. So is Miller-Weibo already up on Kambunji. Lane Thompson with some work to do. It's Dina Asher Smith and Okagbare and Miller-Weibo as they come into the home straight. Not much to choose between them. Dina Asher Smith with half a metre over Miller-Weibo. And the 400-metre runner starting to stretch away already. And Shawnee Miller-Weibo is moving away from this great field. Shawnee Miller-Weibo 21.74. Asher Smith in second. Wow.
And finally, in horse racing, veteran Barbadian Patrick Husbands lifted 3-5 favorite Kingsport to millionaire status when he got the better of a 3-horse stretch battle to win the 100,000 Canadian dollar OLG Elgin Stakes on Wednesday. Riding in the last of 6 stakes races on the 8-race 7th annual Canadian Millions Sales Stakes night, Husbands was forced to hold off Thor's Rocket and Ahead by a Century to take the wire by a head in a time of 1 minute 44.18 seconds. And that's the sport. We'll be right back.
Then we have
fresh blackberries here. We need to get to the tart. These are the little lemon tartlets.
Fort Worth is a lovely place to visit with lots of great attractions, like the Game On Sports Complex where we are right now. Also, you can feed giraffes at the local zoo. You can watch Longhorn Parade down the street on the weekends, and you can also stuff your face with barbecue, which is what you're about to see me do at Heim Barbecue. So check it out for yourself. Go to fortworth.com.
We know about hell in a cell, it's a rage in a cage. Gladiators them got words in the head, 'cause they done put pen to the page. And we now come sing with no violence, curse word we done tend to the stage. So shout out the big man who put the whole thing together, put it down, elevate. Truth is, boy, I done been training. Touch stage and I done plating. Swag tough, gotta raise your gazing. Lyric clean like I just done bathing. Nothing normal, this is ab. Hit my opponents with a jab. Punchline from the first line. Got Scuddy throwing up his hands. Leon and Juba about to dance.
Lovely place to visit with lots of great attractions, like the Game On Sports Complex where we are right now. Also, you can feed giraffes at the local zoo. You can watch Longhorn Parade down the street on the weekends, and you can also stuff your face with barbecue, which is what you're about to see me do at Heim Barbecue. So check it out for yourself. Go to fortworth.com.
We know about hell in a cell, it's a rage in a cage. Gladiators them got words in the head, 'cause they done put pen to the page. And we now come sing with no violence, curse word we done tend to the stage. So shout out the big man who put the whole thing together, put it down, elevate. Truth is, boy, I done been training. Touch stage and I done plating. Swag tough, gotta raise your gazing. Lyric clean like I just done bathing. Nothing normal, this is ab. Hit my opponents with a jab. Punchline from the first line. Got Scuddy throwing up his hands. Leon and Juba about to dance.
A recap of the day's major developments. The Trinidad and Tobago government hints at legal action against a former director of intelligence at the Strategic Services Agency, Carlton Denny, who claimed he was ordered to fire all employees of East Indian descent. And in sport, the Trinidad and Tobago Football Association disbands a task force set up to improve the sport, saying it failed to carry out the Federation's mandate to take the game forward. And that's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport around the clock, subscribe to CanalNews.com, and for more of our programming, log on to CaribVision.tv and check out our YouTube channel. We'll be back here again tomorrow, but from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching and have yourselves a good night.